Okay guys, we're going to talk about solving rational equations. So here's your steps. So the first you need to determine all the values that would make the equation undefined. So the denominator. So we got to make sure that the denominator doesn't equal 0. So we'll figure out what values would make the denominator 0. Then we'll solve the equation and then make sure you reject any of those values that we got from step 1 if we have those as answers. So here's our first example. We're going to go ahead and first look at any values that would make this undefined. So that means that the bottom can't be 0. So if I set the bottom equal to 0, we get 2x plus 1 equals 0, which then when I solve for x, x equals negative 1/2. So that would make the bottom 0, so that's a value that can't happen. X cannot equal negative 1/2. Now let's go to solve this. So how I would solve this is I'm just going to multiply both sides by 2x plus 1 so that I have 2x plus 1 in a spot where I can actually work with it. Okay, so these cancel, so I have x plus 2 equals, this is just 1 times that whole thing, so it ends up just being 2x plus 1. Okay, if it is a number, make sure that you distribute that number. But since it's just 1, it's not going to change anything. So now let's subtract x to both sides. So we have 2 equals x plus 1, subtract 1, so x is going to equal positive 1, which if I go back and look, it does not equal that number that we said it couldn't be, so my answer would just be x equals 1. Okay, this one's a little different. It's not just a fraction equals a number, it's got a couple fractions in there adding together. So for this one, first we're going to do that same first step and figure out what the denominators can't be. So it's going to be x cannot equal positive 2, x cannot equal negative 2. And if I factor this one right here, this is x minus 2, x plus 2. So it's the same thing that I had, so there's not anything else that x cannot be that would make it undefined. Now, when we have something like this, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to multiply the common denominator to everything. So I'm going to multiply everything by x plus minus 2, x plus 2. Really, I'm technically multiplying of this over 1, so I'm really just multiplying the tops by the common denominator, and when I do that, we're going to notice that something is going to happen that's going to let us actually work with these. Because now I notice that these x minus 2's would cancel, these x plus 2's cancel, and then this whole bottom cancels with this whole top. So now we can work with just the tops. We don't have denominators anymore. But make sure now we're going to distribute this. So this is going to be x times x is x squared plus 2x, because x times 2 is 2x. Then I have positive 1 times x is positive x. Positive 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. Equals our 8. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and combine like terms, and I have x squared plus 3x minus 2 equals 8. Now I'm going to need to move the 8 over so that I can solve by factoring. So I have x squared plus 3x minus 10. So what multiplies to negative 10 but adds up to 3? Well, that would just be negative 2 and positive 5. Okay, so I have x plus 5 and x minus 2. So my answers will be x equals negative 5 and x equals 2. But before I say that those are both my answers, I need to look back up here. Is there any ones that they couldn't be? Well, it couldn't be x equals 2, so I'm going to make just an x to say, hey, that's not going to work. And my answer is x equals negative 5. So big thing there is always double check to make sure that your solutions weren't any ones that we said they couldn't be. And that's it.